is my creative thinking project for Professor Bill Haney's critical thinking class, fall 2018. I chose 6 creators, and I'm going to explain how we are similar and how we're different. The 6 creators are Raina Rilke, Leonardo da Vinci, Maya Angelou, Annie Dillard, and Isadora Duncan, and Carl Jung. Rainer was born on December 4th, 1875. Rainer was born in Prague. He was the only child of an unhappy marriage. Rainer's childhood was unhappy. His parents placed him in military school, hoping that he would become an officer, but he decided not to. In 1897, Rilke went to Russia to a trip that would prove him to be a milestone in Rilke's life, which marked the true beginning of early serious work. In 1902, he became the friends for a time of the Secretary Rodin, and it was during his 12 years in Paris residence Rilke enjoyed the greatest poetic activity. Rilke continued to travel through his lifetime to Italy and Spain, Egypt, among other places, but Paris would serve as the geographic center of life, where he first began to develop a new style of lyrical poetry. How I feel like I'm alike Rainer, I feel like we're alike because we both love to travel. I feel like we're different because Rainer thinks outside of the box, unlike me. Sometimes it takes me a little while before I can just, I like to have everything planned out, so sometimes thinking outside of the box doesn't always work for me. So I would say that Rainer always just thinks outside of the box. He doesn't care about the consequences. He's a chance taker versus me. I'm always trying to make sure that everything is planned out and stuff like that. My second will be Leonardo da Vinci. That's my second creator that I chose, and I created this picture of him because he likes to travel a lot as well, just as well as I do. Leonardo da Vinci was born April the 15th, 1452, and he died May 2nd, 1519. He was born out of wedlock as to a respected Florentine notary, Ser Piero, and a young peasant woman named Catera. He was raised by his father's family in Tuscan, a painter, sculptor, architect, inventor, and military engineer draftsman. Leonardo received little formal education beyond basic reading, writing, and mathematics. Around the age of 14, Vinci began a lengthy apprenticeship with the noted artist Andrea del Verrocchio in Florence. He lived a wide breadth of technical skills, including metalworking, leather arts, carpentry, drawing, painting, and sculpting. At the age of 20, Da Vinci qualified for a membership as a master artist in Florence. Florentine records show that in 1476, Da Vinci and 4 other young men were charged with sodomy, a crime punishable by death. After Da Vinci was acquitted, his whereabouts went entirely undocumented for the following years. Leonardo returned to Milan in 1506 to work for the very French rulers who had overtaken the city 7 years earlier and forced him to flee. He did little painting during his second stint in Milan. However, most of this time he dedicated it to science. Maya Angelou. I chose this pattern for her because it's the it brought back so many memories for me, just because it was about her book, I Know Why the Cage Bird Sung, and it reminds me of myself because growing up, we both had some of the same experiences, just like becoming teen parents at the age of 16 and not having a father around and having so much responsibilities and not letting that deter our lives. We were still able to overcome a lot of obstacles and still be able to be successful. Maya Angelou was raised in California. Her and her brother were sent off to live with her grandmother, and one weekend while visiting her mom's house, she was molested by her mom's boyfriend, which then she became silent for a long time after that. And I would just like to say we're both different because we experienced a lot of obstacles and we were able to overcome them. But we're different because I wouldn't have kept my silence about the abuse. I would have told what happened, and I like to express myself versus being quiet, and she held a lot of stuff in versus dealing with it. So that's why I would say me and her was different. But she's a very somebody that I look up to. Carl Jung, the word happy would lose its meaning if it was not balanced. That was the quote that he used. And Jung was the son of a philosophist and pastor. His childhood was lonely. Although enriched by vivid imaginations from an early age, he observed the behavior of his father's failing belief in religion. He tried to communicate with him on his own experience of God in many ways, but Jung was a kind and tolerant man, but neither he or his son would succeed. Jung, I would say me and Jung is alike because Jung has his strong opinions. He's very opinionated, and if he believes something, he just goes with it. He doesn't believe in not giving and not going after something he believed in. That's why him and Freud ended up not having a relationship because they didn't see eye to eye on the thing. I would say we're different because I'm not into really observing, and I don't like. Well, I do observe somewhat, but like the observations, how he just goes so in depth in them, I would say we're different because I'm not gonna spend a lot of time when in observation. I'm just gonna, think about it and keep it moving. So I would say we're different in that way. I would say we're a lot alike as well because he traveled also. And Annie Dillard, this next one is it's just showing it was my thoughts for Annie Dillard. She was born on April 30th, 1945 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Her name was originally Meta Ann Doak. Her ethnic background comes from Scottish, Irish, French, and German roots. She attended Hollins College in Virginia and moved from house to house. Dillard's hobby was collecting rocks and insects. Dillard was married twice, had 4 children, and she referred to herself as an explorer. She graduated from the Ellis School and received her bachelor's and master's degree in English. She took some teaching jobs at Washington University. Her education, attendance in college, and her literature helped to shape her creative contributions in her field because she was able to write about her experiences. In 1979, Dillard and her husband Evidence moved to Middleton, Connecticut, and Dillard took a job teaching at Washington University. Her personality, she was a rock and roll fan. It was her favorite music. She was a problem child. She did not like to follow rules. And in high school, she was suspended for smoking cigarettes. Reminds me a lot. I feel like we're a lot alike because I was kind of unruly in high school. I didn't like to follow the rules, and I made bad choices. And how we're alike is we were able to overcome those choices that we made. Even though we made bad choices, we were still able to overcome them. And also, we're alike because she likes to travel, and I like to travel as well. And so that ended up working out. So my next creator is going to be Isadora Duncan. Isadora Duncan, her original name was Angela Duncan. She was born on May 26, 1877 in San Francisco, California. She passed away September 14, 1997 in France. She was an American dancer whose teaching and performances helped to free ballet from its conservative restrictions. She was among the first ones to raise interpretive dance to the status of creative art. She began teaching dance lessons only at the age of 5. She was earning money to teach the local children to dance during her spare time. She developed an approach to dance and emphasized naturalistic movements. In Europe, she was a performer to classical music where she opened schools that integrated dance with other types of learning. She studied Greek mythology and iconology while in Europe. Duncan was one of 4 children. She was raised in Gentile poverty by her mother. She was a music teacher, and as a child, she was very stern and directed. Duncan experienced a tragedy in 1913 in which she never really recovered. Her nurse and her children were in a car that rolled into Seam River, and all 3 of them drowned. In an effort to supplement her grief, she started to open another school when World War I took place and put an end to her plans. Duncan was overwhelmed with resentment and had a hard time adjusting to life after so much tragedy she had experienced. So she began to go on tours to South America, Germany, France, and they were less successful than before. She did not give up. She was able to establish a school of her own in Moscow. Duncan met Sergei Yesin, a poet that was 17 years younger than she was at the time, and married him. She was lonely. She was willing to sacrifice her sculptures against marriage in order to take him with her on tour of the United States. During the last years of her life, Duncan was somewhat a pathetic figure. She was living in Nice on the French River, where she met with a fatal accident. Her long scarf became entangled in the rear wheel of a car in which she was riding in, and she was strangled to death by her scarf. Similarities, I would say Duncan and I are somewhat alike because we both like to travel. We've both overcome a lot of obstacles. We both figured out how to still be able to to accomplish goals, even though we have so much tragedy happen to us at such a young age. I would say we're different because she just didn't take education as important. She was just like, she felt like some education was enough. She didn't go back to school after she continued her education at the Ladance school or whatever. So that's how I feel like we're different. Like, just our priorities. Some of our priorities are just very different. But overall, I would say we do have a lot in common as far as like having a hard time while growing up, difficult childhoods. And that's what I have to say for my creative project. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.